The board will now come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Present.
Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Evans.
Present.
Alderman Page.
Present.
Alderwoman Ingracia. Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Rice.
Present.
Alderman Gunther.
Here.
Alderman Balmer.
Present.
Alderwoman Martin. Alderman Stevens.
Here.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Present.
Alderwoman Howard.
Present.
Alderwoman Green.
Present.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Here.
Alderwoman Peel.
Here.
Alderman Todd.
Present.
Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer.
Here.
Alderman Muhammad.
Here.
Alderman Boyd.
Present.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Present.
Alderman Narayan.
Here.
Alderman Cone.
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Here.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Here.
President Reed.
Here.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Ingracia. Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Martin. Alderwoman Davis. 22 present.
A quorum being present, I'm going to ask everyone if you please will join me for a moment of silence for the two officers that were shot this past week. One of them, Officer Ledbetter, is still in recovery, and we pray that he recovers. So let's start this meeting with a moment of silent prayer for both officers and their family and friends. Almighty God, we call on you this day to stand with Officer Ledbetter, his family and friends. We ask that you cover him with your blessing. We ask that you bring him back to full health. We ask that you do this in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost. We also ask that you stand with us this day and give us the wisdom to come to the right conclusions in this board meeting today. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
We're gonna suspend with our regular business, take up our courtesy resolutions calendar. Alderman from the 19th, you recognize on the motion for our courtesy resolutions calendar. Alderman from the 22nd, you recognize on the motion for our courtesy resolutions calendar.
Mr. President, members of the board, I move for adoption of courtesy resolution calendar.
Moved by the Alderman from the 22nd, seconded by the Alderman
Second.
from the 27th,
A lot of votes.
and someone else. Alderman from the 22nd, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. January, it's almost over, but I wanted to recognize January as the National Human Trafficking Awareness Month. It's a serious issue and crisis that's going on in our community, and I would ask that the clerk please read Resolution 167.
Clerk, please proceed.
Resolution number 167, recognizing the National Human Trafficking Awareness Month and the efforts of Fresh Beginning Safe House. Whereas January of each year is recognized as National Human Trafficking Awareness Month beginning in 2010. And whereas the month is designed to bring attention to the issue, urge action to end human trafficking, and help encourage and galvanize efforts towards ending it. And whereas human trafficking is the world's fastest growing criminal enterprise, valued to be an estimate $32 billion year global industry. After drug trafficking, human trafficking is the world's second most profitable criminal enterprise. A status it shares with illegal armed trafficking. 79% of human trafficking victims are sexually exploited, with about 80% being females and 50% being children, with the average age of entry between 12 and 14 years old. Whereas some major factors that contribute to people becoming human trafficking victims are poverty, racism, gender inequality, addictions, and mental illness. Sex trafficking is a subcategory of commercial sexual exploitation in which an individual uses different methods to control another individual to force or coerce into providing sexual services for a commercial gain. And whereas commercial sexual exploitation takes many forms and spans numerous industries, including internet and street-based prostitution, pornography, exotic dancing, and many others. The situations that sex trafficking victims face vary dramatically. Many victims can become romantically involved with someone who forces them or manipulates them into prostitution. Others are lured in with false promises of a job, such as modeling or dancing. Some are forced into commercial sex by parents or other family members. They may be involved in a trafficking situation for a few days or weeks, or may remain in the same or different trafficking situation for years. And whereas St. Louis is in the top 20 most prevalent cities for human trafficking in the United States, according to the National Trafficking Hotline. Since 2007, 4,609 human trafficking cases have been reported in Missouri, with a high concentration in St. Louis. This does not include all the individuals currently being trafficked or those that are free and afraid to report. Given its central location, serving as a hub for several interstate highways, having an international airport, and increasing economic disparity stemming from increasingly decentralized metropolitan area and high racial segregation, the St. Louis trafficking problem is only increasing. And whereas currently most major funding and subsequently quality and innovative services for human trafficking specific programs are limited to coastal metropolitan areas in the United States. This leaves victims in the middle of the country with little to no assistance for escaping their traffickers or with the support system to lift them out of the circle of violence. Whereas St. Louis, although one of the most prevalent cities for human trafficking, has few resources that knowledgeable and specifically address sex trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation, and very few that are serving urban neighborhoods of St. Louis. Currently, there are less than a handful of programs that provide comprehensive residential or non-residential programs addressing the highly specific and sensitive needs of a sex trafficked and commercially sexual exploited survivors in St. Louis and surrounding areas. And whereas Fresh Beginnings Safe House has been formally established since March 2007 to help prevent sex trafficking, as well as assist survivors in leaving the life of sex trafficking, commercial sexual exploitation, overcoming obstacles, and building fulfilling new futures. It is a survivor-led organization with the founder having over 13 years of experience working with undeserved individuals and those who have been sexually trafficked and commercially sexually exploited. And whereas the Fresh Beginning Safe House has been working with the Wells Goodfellow Hamilton Heights Neighborhood Association and the 22nd Ward, building relationship and saving souls. Now, therefore, let it be resolved by the Honorable Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis that we pause in our deliberation to recognize the National Human Traffic Awareness Month and the valiant efforts of the Fresh Beginning Safe House in working to prevent and end sex trafficking. We further direct the clerk of this board to spread a copy of this resolution across the minutes of these proceedings and prepare a commemorative copy to the end that it may be presented at a time and place to those deemed appropriate by the sponsor. Introduced this 28th day of January, 2022 by the Honorable Jeffrey Boyd, Alderman 21st Ward, President Lewis Reed, Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman of the 26th Ward.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That was a mouthful. By the way, I know the resolution says 21, but I'm actually 22, Alderman for the 22nd. But I see it says that, so I understand why you said it. As someone who's been an alderman for almost 20 years, 19 this year actually, and have been a citizen in the Hamilton Heights neighborhood, my family and I have had to watch and deal and have mental issues with the fact that prostitution is prevalent in our neighborhood. For people who think, aldermen are not subjected to some of the social problems that are in our community, you couldn't be more wrong. Prostitution is right next door to my house. And people oftentimes think, well, that's the alderman. He has to know. Why isn't he doing something about it? Well, number one, all of you know as an alderman, there's not much you can do about any of this without a gun and a badge, because we certainly can't arrest people. There's been a lot of conversation about decriminalizing prostitution. There's been a lot of conversation about we need to do something. But at the end of the day, there's not much being done by the city of St. Louis. So I wanted to take this opportunity to elevate the conversation, not just recognizing this month, but actually putting something into action. I'll be asking the chairman of the Health and Human Services Committee to work with me, have more conversations, more hearings about this, and come up with some real strategies of how we can abate this problem in our neighborhood and how we can get help for not just the women, but actually some of the men out there engaged in prostitution, some of the transgender that's out there engaged in prostitution. I have a special guest who I am excited to say is a partner with our community, have been over here for some time, gives a lot of her unselfish time along with her daughter to help some of these individuals who are caught up in sex trafficking and commercial sexploitation. So with that, I want to introduce Miss Sarah White, who is with Fresh Beginning Safe House, to kind of put a face on one of the advocates and talk more about this crisis in our neighborhood. Sarah.
Thanks for
Good
joining.
morning. Thank you. So I appreciate that we are bringing this to the table today. I appreciate the resolution. I think it's imperative and critical that we keep this conversation going, although it is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. This is an ongoing issue that lasts throughout the 12 months of the year, 365 days a year. It's not something that we can just talk about when there's a month for it and then ignore it the rest of the time. I'm very passionate about getting out here and helping these individuals. Ward 22 is a ward that I'm very focused on. A lot of our work is done in that ward. We have an intensive, we go in there and we do an intensive outreach program, which is a great program, but unfortunately it's only band-aiding the issue. We go in, we go with purses, and we provide safe sex kits and Narcan kits and things that these women would need, such as hygiene products, food, and things like that. We go out every week and we do this, and we're building relationships with the women that are out there. But it's not enough. And so I am desperately out here trying to get to a place where we can open a drop-in center in that ward, because the reality is that most of these women are not going to leave that area to go out and get services. Many of them don't want to be in their situation. Most of them don't want to be in that situation. As a matter of fact, no one really wants to be in a situation where they're being trafficked or commercially sexually exploited. However, it's a very underserved community. These women have very little resources to, reach out for. They have no positive social support system. So what we're trying to do is go into Ward 22 and open a drop-in center that would provide comprehensive services that would assist these women with getting to a place of understanding that they are valuable and they can get out of this life, and then get them to a place where we can help them move on to a life free of exploitation and sex trafficking. It's a lot of work working with these women. We do have some transgenders out there that we work with that are, needing services as well. So it's just really important to me that we get out here and we do what we need to do as an organization. I do what I need to do as a person. What these women lack is alarming. We have for example, I have a lady out there we've built a great relationship with over the last couple of years, and she disappeared for a little while, and I asked about her and they said she had gotten clean and she had left. And then we saw her a couple months later, and she had relapsed and she was back out in the streets. And I had a conversation with her for a while out there. And one of the things that she stressed to me was I tried so hard to get off the heroin. I was clean for a while, but nobody believed in me. Nobody helped me. Nobody walked with me. I had nowhere to go. I had nowhere to turn. I don't know anything outside of what's here. I was afraid. So I just gave up. And, we have talked to many of these women and kind of mentioned to them what we're planning on doing with the drop-in center. And most of the women are extremely welcoming of that idea. They have expressed that they know we care about them, that we know, or they know that, we're going to have their best interests at hand. And a lot of them do want out. They just don't know how to get out. They need that assistance. So that's kind of what we're focusing on. This is a conversation that needs to be ongoing in our city, and it's more than just cleaning up our city. These women are not, it's not dirty. We need to humanize this issue. These are sisters that, they're mothers, they're someone's daughter, there's someone's aunt, there's someone, these are individuals. I don't look at it as we need to clean up our city. I look at it as we need to save our sisters, because they're out here being abused and sexually assaulted and sold, and they're a marginalized population, and people look at them as an eyesore. They're not an eyesore. These individuals have intellect and beauty on the inside, and they're valuable. And that's what we want to focus on. We want to go into this, these communities and say, hey, we see you, we value you, we're going to help you. Let's get you out of here. So that's just kind of the focus as an organization that we have right now.
Thank you, Sarah. Really appreciate all your work.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And please stick around for a minute. We're not done yet. A bunch of aldermen that would like to weigh in here. Alderwoman from the 14th.
Yes, I think this is a very serious matter. I think that, when we look around the city and we talk about the unhoused, many of these people are probably being taken advantage of as well. And I think that, if we offer alternative to being on the streets and being trafficked, I think that, we may see some success with this. I would like to be added, Alderman Boyd, as a co-sponsor. I think this is a very important issue for our city, and something that we need to address and give People some tools for making their lives better. Thank you very much, Ms. White, for coming along and
Alderwoman of the 14th, would you like to see if the board has
I would like to make a motion to see if this would be, if all aldermen would like to make this in bank.
Second. Moved by Alderman from the 14th, seconded by Alderman from the 23rd, the 12th, the 26th, 19th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, please make note of that. Create another copy of the resolution in bank. Alderman from the 23rd.
Alderman 14 said part of what I was going to say. for a bit there, when we could, I was bringing the homeless people in. And it's not just the ladies that are being put up for prostitution, but the homeless girls that are being raped nightly, not some nights, nightly, that are being taken advantage of from guys nightly. And when I talked to them, the young lady I talked to, her whole mouth was busted up and all that. I said, what happened? She said she was raped, she resisted. I said, did you call the police? No, I didn't call the police because I have warrants. And the warrants are always for vagrancy. If we're gonna get serious about this, and I've said it time and time again, we're gonna have to start working with the homeless too, to eliminate the vagrancy so they can report them. I mean, somebody rather take a beating and be raped, and they're afraid to call the police because they know they'll end up in jail. And they are more afraid of that than being raped. And I've said this over and over and over again, and yet we haven't done anything. We continue to say, well, as long as we don't put any homeless people in my neighborhood, or we don't do anything to help them, I've tried to get that where they could register to vote. Having trouble finding an address. Larry Rice offered to use his building as an address. Apparently, everybody's got the right to vote except the homeless people. Anyway, I'm not going to preach, but I can tell you nightly, not even just a prostitution, nightly, young ladies and some men are being raped, and they're afraid to go to the police because they have warrants for vagrancy, not because they did anything any more than that. Anyway, I won't preach beyond that, but we're going to have to do something and get serious. I've been in this for three years. I've been preaching this, and Alderwoman Clark Hubbard and the president of the board, you've been in the room with us trying to deal with this problem. And COVID kind of put a slowdown on us, but we were working toward this. Anyway, I won't preach anymore, but even way beyond the prostitution, we better start trying to figure out how we're going to deal with these warrants and the homeless people and the ladies that are being raped nightly. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. Alderwoman from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I too understand and have watched and tried to help over the years. But one of the things I think that we could do, because we all seem to be very focused at the moment, is to make sure that we connect all those services that are out there and put some funding to it. Basics is one of the largest programs we have. They have a women's center that actually works with them with the drug treatment as well as wraparound services in its totality. And then when you think about Salvation Army, the programming that they have available as well, that includes drug treatment and transitional housing. There are about 4 or 5 that are really, really good programs, but for some reason, we just don't ever get to that. And maybe this year we can focus and put some money to it and talk to them and get a good plan together for all of them to network. So thank you.
Right, thank you all. Thank you all the one from 19th. All the one from 26 had her hand up earlier.
I'm sorry, something happened with my computer, just completely crashed. So after Alderwoman Davis, I'm sure she probably has already said probably the same thing I was thinking, because at the end I heard something about us working together. Ms. White, I continue to thank you every year when you come before us to speak about this. I hear the passion and the commitment in your voice. I love the way that you speak about not, saving and making it real. Specifically case by case, which is what it is. There's no cookie cutter answer to this. But I think I heard Alderwoman Davis when my computer was coming back up saying that if we can work together collectively with all the different organizations and associations that are out here on the ground really doing this work, that we can make some real change in this. So I know 22 talked about action. I'm sorry. Alderman Boyd, I'm thinking like we in another meeting. Alderman Boyd talked about the action, and he knows the commitment. He knows that these issues are so near and dear to me with the work I do with Diamond Diva Empowerment Association, and how sex trafficking, domestic violence, all these things, homelessness cross over with each other. They layer on each other for people that sometimes they just can't even think to begin to find their way out of it. So thank you, Alderman Boyd, for bringing this up. You're right, Ms. White, this don't stop because January 31st is coming up. This is 365 days worth of work. And I know that that we're all committed to doing it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderman from 6. Ms. White, I just want to thank you so much for your work within the community. I want to thank you for reaching out and continue to connect with the most vulnerable within the community of City of St. Louis. And I like the fact that you made it about them. And you said, you know what, you have to imagine this is your sister, your aunt, your mother, right? And I think people need to put it in those terms so that it's not just a number, it's not just a statistic. These are real people we're talking about, real people that can go on and do some great things if indeed they just have someone that cared enough to connect with them, to help get them the resources they need to turn their lives around. And oftentimes they find themselves in this situation by no fault of their own, because of the circumstances and the environments that they grow up in and they just happen to be born into. So I thank you so much for your works. I consider it an honor, and hopefully you understand with the entire board asking that their names be added to this resolution. It's an honor for this board to have you here today, to have you take out some of your precious time to join us today so that we can deliver this resolution to you on behalf of residents of the City of St. Louis who may never ever have an opportunity to thank you for your many works. So I'll ask everyone to join me in a round of applause for Ms. White.
Thank you.
And then we'll ask Alderman Boyd, this is your resolution, you recognize the close.
Again, thank you, Sarah White and members of the board. I just want to add one little extra to this that really brings it home for me, having served over here the time I have. In the past couple of years, we've had 3 sex workers murdered. That's serious. And so I'm asking you guys to join me and continue to elevate this conversation and to take action to mitigate another murder of a sex worker and open up an opportunity for them to be housed with social services and get their life back on the right track and increase their quality of life. But with that, again, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members of the board.
All right. Thank you again, Ms. White.
Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt our courtesy resolutions calendar. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. That will return to our regular order of business. Introduction of honored guests. Alderman from the 23rd.
Find all the buttons. As always, I'd like to have my good friend Greg Meyer as my honored guest today.
Welcome, Greg. Any further introductions? Alderman from the 10th, like to wrap us up.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. We're here on January 28th. This is National Rubber Ducky Day, so have fun with that. But more importantly, on this day in 1985, 40 of the top entertainers in the world got together to record We Are the World to stave off hunger. Now, if you watch the video, look closely in the back, you'll see the alderman from the 23rd, because at that time he was the hairdresser for most of the singers in the group. Specifically, Cyndi Lauper was his favorite to do, he said. So keep an eye on that video.
All right. Approval of the minutes.
Approval of the minutes dated Friday, January the 21st, 2022.
Alderman from the 10th, you recognize on approval of the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I move that we approve the minutes from January 21st, 2022.
Second.
Moved by Alderman from 10th, seconded by Alderman from 22nd. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Report of city officials.
Report of city officials can be found in A, B, and C of the agenda and has been placed in the alderman's mailboxes.
We dispense with line item 7. Would anyone like to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendars? Would anyone like to take any bills or resolutions off any of our informal calendars? We will dispense with line items 8 through 10. First reading of board bills.
Board Bill 167, sponsored by Alderman Vaccaro, an ordinance establishing a two-way stop site at the intersection of McCausland Avenue and Bancroft Avenue, regulating all traffic traveling northbound and southbound on McCausland Avenue at Bancroft, and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 168, sponsored by Alderwoman Gracia, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing the Department of Health to accept a National Association of County and City Health Officials implementing overdose prevention strategies at the local level, grant of $500,000, containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 169, sponsored by Alderwoman Gracia, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing the Department of Health to accept an additional amount of $55,000 of the amended COVID-19 response grant assistance through the Epidemiology and Laboratory Capacity Cares Award from the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, bringing the total appropriation under such award up to $126,150, containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 170, sponsored by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Public Service to conditionally vacate above surface, and subsurface rights for vehicle, equestrian, and pedestrian travel in the north-south alley, also known as Cabanny Way in City Block 4547, as bounded by Clemens, Clara, Enright, and Goodfellow in the city of St. Louis, Missouri, imposing certain conditions on such vacations. Board Bill 171, sponsored by Alderman Todd, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Public Service to conditionally vacate above surface, and subsurface rights for vehicle, equestrian, and pedestrian travel in the northernmost east-west alley in City Block 3787, imposing certain conditions on such vacation. Board Bill 172, sponsored by Alderman Cone, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Airport Commission and the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, amending ordinance number 71288, approved on December 4th, 2020, and the Air Service Initiative Program for fiscal years 2021 through 2023, as adopted by ordinance number 71288, containing a severability clause and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 173, sponsored by Alderman Cone, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Airport Commission, the Comptroller, the Board of Estimate, and the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, making findings respecting the transfer of a maximum of $13,727,769 of excess monies that the City of St. Louis, the owner and operator of St. Louis Lambert International Airport, intends to transfer from the Debt Service Stabilization Fund to the Airport Revenue Fund during fiscal year 2022, containing a severability clause and an emergency clause. Board Bill 174, sponsored by Alderman Cone, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Airport Commission and the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, providing for the transfer of $1 million that the City of St. Louis, the owner and operator of St. Louis Lambert International Airport, intends to transfer from the Airport Development Fund through the Airport Contingency Fund into the Airport Revenue Fund in order to fund the airport's Air Service Initiative Program for fiscal year 2021 through fiscal year 2024, containing a severability clause and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 175, sponsored by Alderman Collins Muhammad, an ordinance directing the City of St. Louis Division of Police establish 9 police districts, the boundaries of which shall be drawn in accordance with the map set forth in Exhibit A attached hereto, and to the extent the Commissioner of the City of St. Louis Division of Police deems reasonable and appropriate in light of changing community and law enforcement needs, Division of Police resources, including officers, shall be apportioned equally amongst the 9 police districts and each police district. That is the extent of first reading of board bills.
Reference to committee.
To the Street Committees, Board Bill 167, 170, and 171. To Health and Human Services Committee, Board Bill 168 and 169. To Transportation and Commerce Committee, Board Bill 172, 173, and 174. And to Public Safety Committee, Board Bill 175. That is extent of reference to committee.
Second reading and report of standing committees.
The following board bills were reported out of Public Safety with a due pass recommendation. Board Bill 149, sponsored by Alderman Bosley, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 70573, and in lieu thereof, enacting a new ordinance prohibiting the issuance of any package or drink liquor licenses for any currently non-licensed premises within the boundaries of the Third Ward Liquor Control District as established herein for a period of 5 years, containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 155 as amended, sponsored by Alderman Todd, an ordinance prohibiting the issuance of any package or drink liquor license for any currently non-licensed premises within the boundaries of the 18th Ward Liquor Control District as established herein for a period of 5 years from the effective date hereof, containing an emergency clause. That is the extent of second reading report of standing committees.
We dispense with line item 14, perfection consent.
Board Bill 130, sponsored by Alderwoman Peel, an ordinance recommended by the Planning Commission on June 9th, 2021 to change the zoning of property as indicated on district map from the J Industrial District to H Area Commercial District in City Block 3962, so as to include the described parcels of land in City Block 3962 and contain an emergency clause. Board Bill 148, sponsored by Alderwoman Davis, an ordinance recommended by the Planning Commission on December 1st, 2021 to change the zoning of property as indicated on district map from the J Industrial District and the K Restricted District to the K Unrestricted District only in 2 parcels in City Block 2214, 3 parcels in City Block 2231, 2 parcels in City Block 2233.18, and 6 parcels in 2243, so as to include the described parcels of land in City Blocks 2214, 2231, 2233.18, and 2234.18, and contain an emergency clause. Board Bill 142, sponsored by Alderwoman Davis and the following alderpersons: Tyus, J. Boyd, P. Boyd, Bacoro, Bosley, Schweitzer, and Peel. An ordinance recommended by the Board of Public Service to conditionally vacate above surface and subsurface rights for vehicle, equestrian, and pedestrian travel in the 15-foot wide north-south alley in City Block 1881 as bounded by Aldine, Grand, Cass, Spring in the City of St. Louis, Missouri, as hereinafter described in accordance with a charter authority and in conformity with Section 1.4 of Article 21 of the charter and imposing certain conditions on such vacation. That is the extent of perfection consent calendar.
Alderman from the 10th, you recognize on the motion for the perfection consent calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, I move that we adopt the perfection consent calendar.
Moved
Second.
by Alderman from 10th, seconded by Alderman from 22nd. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Board bills for perfection.
We have none.
Third reading consent.
Board Bill 138 and Board Bill 143.
Alderman from the 10th, you recognize on the motion for the third reading consent calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I move that we adopt the third reading consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 10th
Second.
and seconded by the Alderman from 22nd and the Alderman from the 22nd. 27th and the 22nd. Any discussion? It's been moved and seconded that we adopt our third reading consent calendar. All in favor, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Aye.
Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Evans.
Aye.
Alderman Page.
Aye.
Alderwoman Gracia.
Aye.
Alderman Coder.
Aye.
Alderwoman Rice.
Aye.
Alderman Gunther.
Aye.
Alderman Ballmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Martin. Alderman Stevens.
Aye.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Green.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderwoman Peel.
Aye.
Alderman Todd.
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad. Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. President Reed.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Martin. Alderman Muhammad.
Aye.
25 aye votes.
By vote, sustain the motion. Alderman from 10th and 3rd read and finally passed the aforementioned bills. 3rd reading, reporting engrossments, and final passage.
Board Bill 138 and Board Bill 143.
All other business being suspended, the president shall in open session affix his signature hereto to the end that these may become law. Alderman from the 12th, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I would like to move, not motion, but move to suspend the rules to introduce Resolution 170.
It has been moved by the Alderman from the 12th. Entertain a second on that motion.
Second.
Seconded by the Alderman from the 24th that we suspend
Previous roll.
the rules for the purposes of introducing the aforementioned resolution. It's been a request for previous roll. Hearing no objection, motion carries. Madam Clerk, please place the aforementioned resolution at the end of the first reading resolutions calendar.
So noted.
First reading resolutions.
Resolution 168 sponsored by Alderwoman Howard. Bevo Community Improvement District Directors Appointments.
Alderman from the 14th, you recognize on first reading resolution 168.
Yes, this is a resolution to reappoint some of the members of the Bevo Community Improvement District and to appoint some new people. The appointment of Sarah Baraba, serving as property owner, whose term will expire on the 16th of September 2024, replacing Samir Nixick. The appointment of Amelia Lewis, serving as a business owner, replacing Bridget Fivey, and the reappointment of Samir Sajid, serving as a business owner, who will expire the 24th in September of 24, and the reappointment of Mr. Mark Daly as a property owner within the district. I would like the board's favorable consideration of this.
All right, would you like to request unanimous consent?
I would like to request unanimous consent.
Hearing no objection, would you like to make the motion for the adoption?
I would like to make a motion that the board adopt these appointments.
Second.
Resolution 168. It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderman from the 23rd. Any further discussion? It's been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution 168. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries.
Resolution 169, sponsored by President Reed and Alderman Boyd. Last day for the introduction of board bills for the 2021-2022 legislation session.
Alderman from the 22nd, you recognize on the first reading of resolution 169.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I move for unanimous consent.
Hearing no objection, please proceed.
Second.
Yes, Mr. President, this is an annual ritual that we do every year based on your recommendation. According to Rule 56, we must establish the last day to introduce board bills. And based on Resolution 169, the last day to introduce board bills will be February the 18th. Friday the 11th will be the last full board meeting before the Monday, April 18th, which will be sign and die. So again, this resolution establishes February the 18th as the last day to introduce board bills.
All right, would you like to make the motion for its adoption?
Mr. President, members of the board, I move for adoption of Resolution 169.
Moved by the Alderman from the 22nd,
Second.
second by the Alderman from the 23rd, and I think it's the Alderman from the 14th and the 27th. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 170, sponsored by Alderman Stevens, calling upon the Honorable Governor of Missouri, Michael Persons, to declare a state of emergency for the city of St. Louis.
Alderman from the 12th, you recognize on the first reading of resolution 170.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge that the description of calling for a state of emergency is a bit alarmist, but I want to specify that this resolution, which has been composed by numerous divisions and departments in the city, I've been working with several Director of Health, Director of Human Services, and others to draft it. That phrasing, state of emergency, allows both the City Emergency Management Agency and the State Emergency Management Agency the opportunity to pursue additional funding, resources, and personnel for our hospitals. So this is very hospital centric. As we all know, our hospitals in the St. Louis greater metropolitan area do not serve only St. Louis, but serve Eastern Missouri nearly as a whole. And even though we've seen a slight dip in new cases of coronavirus, Omicron variant transmissions, we are still at a strained and alarming state as it currently stands. So this resolution, which I would like to refer to Health and Human Services Committee for a hearing, merely calls upon the governor to further expand upon sending a 40-member medical team from the Navy to the city to allow us more access to resources that a state of emergency would open the avenues for. So with that, Mr. President, I would like to refer this resolution 170 to the Health and Human Services Committee.
Been moved by the Alderman from the 12th.
Second.
I think it was Alderman from the
Eighth.
Alderman from the 8th. Seconded by Alderman from the 8th that we refer resolution 170 to Health and Human Services. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, please make note of that. Sign resolution 170 to Health and Human Services.
So noted. That is the extent of first reading of resolutions.
Second reading.
Resolution 79, sponsored by Alderman Vaccaro, Crime Prevention Program Funds.
Alderman from the 23rd, you recognized on the report for resolution 79.
Oh, I wasn't prepared and I apologize.
Alderman, would you like to have the Alderman from the 22nd?
Yeah, if he would, please. Yes, that would be.
I know he was very involved in that. Alderman from the 22nd would like to just do a quick brief report on resolution 79.
The subcommittee made recommendations of 14 agencies for funding, and the committee adopted that this week. I am going to give me a quick second so I can do a rundown on who were recommended for funding. Sorry about that. Or is it in the drive? Okay, here we go. Give me a second here. I apologize. Here we go. Okay. So agencies who've been recommended for funding, St. Louis Story Stitchers, Good Journey Development, Prison Performing Arts, Throwing and Growing, Harambe Youth Training, Live for Life Gym, 22nd Judicial Circuit Family Court, Boys and Girls Club of Greater St. Louis, Mission St. Louis, MOCAN Educational Institute, Riverview West Florida, Young Voice with Action, Wyman Center, Gateway Regional, YMCA. We had about $15,411 left over. And what we decided to do was to recommend that those remaining funds be used for educational purposes. For those agencies who did not make the cut, have a workshop with them to kind of help them make their application better. And also in the beginning, before the RFP goes out next round, we want to make sure that we have a workshop to tell people what the expectations are and how, again, that they can make for a much better application. So I think that our strategy also was to make sure that we fund organizations that were more smaller and grassroots that can create sustainable change in our neighborhoods. Right. With that, that is the report, and I'll take any questions, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Alderman from the 23rd.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the credit that goes to Jeffrey or to Alderman Boyd, you know, Alderwoman Boyd, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, and there was a couple more. It's not a fun or easy task, because it's good that you get to tell people we're giving you money, but there was also a larger amount of people that we said no. And it's a hard thing to do, and I appreciate them doing the subcommittee and the effort that they went into it. And they worked with Ben from the public safety, who's just been really good to work with. So I just want to acknowledge their hard work. And if the Alderman Boyd can say who all was on the subcommittee, that would be really a good thing, because again, it's easy to say yes to people. There were a lot of the bigger organizations that they said no to that had gotten money all the time. So I just wanted to say that. And if you could recognize everybody on the committee, I'd appreciate that. Right. The subcommittee.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Alderman from the 22nd, would you like to, at the request of the chairman, list the people who are on the subcommittee, and then we have the other one from the 14th.
Sure, Mr. President, members of the board, I'd like to acknowledge the hard work of the subcommittee, which was myself, Alderman Pam Boyd, Alderman John Collins Muhammad, Alderman Tom Oldenburg, and Alderwoman Carol Howard.
All right.
Alderwoman Shameen Clark Harper was present, but she was not a member of the voting member of the subcommittee.
But the regular committee, she.
Yes. All right. Right. But the hard work was done in the subcommittee.
All right, we'll give you all your could-dos, but without the whole committee, you so I would recommend you give some thanks to your whole committee.
Well, absolutely, without a doubt. I'm sorry, I took it for granted that it was just, you know, standard procedures. Once we did it, we just got it approved. But yes, a good shout out to the whole committee, who's always committed to public safety.
You're a wise man. All around from the 14th.
Yes, I would like to thank and recognize, in addition, the Carter Ward Foundation. Having been on this committee when I first was elected back 10 years ago, I think it's become more refined and a better process for selecting these. And I also, you know, as we get experience, we grow, we learn. I think the idea of using this additional leftover money, it's not really leftover, to help people write the grants and become more educated about what type of things we're looking for to alleviate some of the stress in our community is a wonderful idea. And I look forward to working with this again as we move forward. It's not an easy process, as the Alderwoman from the 23rd said. You know, it's easy to give money out, but it's hard to say no sometimes. But I think as we move forward, this process becomes more refined and better every year. And that, thank you very much.
Thank you. Alderman from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I had a couple of questions. Would the Alderman from the 22nd yield for a question?
Absolutely.
Alderman from the 22nd, will you have a question?
I think he said yes earlier. Yeah.
Alderman, I know, but I have to ask the question. I'll make sure we're in order. Alderman from the 8th.
Of course. Thank you, Alderman. Thank you so much for this work. I'm just curious, does the subcommittee that meets to consider the applications, is that a public meeting, or are those documents available somewhere for us or for the public to take a look at?
No, it's not a public meeting because it's not the full committee.
Okay.
And there are documents that we have documents of all the agencies who applied and what their scoring were. And so the clerk has that. So if you would like that, Mr. Clerk, if you could put that in the Google Drive, that would be helpful for all our colleagues to be able to access.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. Thank you so much for the clarification. I was just looking through the names that were listed on there, and there were a couple that I'm just not familiar with, and I tried to do some quick website searches and came up a little empty on a few of them. So I'm just curious, to have a bit more information, I think would be helpful. And then I am also grateful that you are using some of this money to help educate and get better applications through, because I know there are so many organizations that can use funding, and helping them refine grant making or grant writing is a big process. So I think that's good. So thank you. I'll take a look at some of those other documents.
Thank you, Alderwoman.
Alderman from the 26th.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I don't really have a question. I just want to kind of respond also to Alderwoman Wright. So do I need to ask her if she would yield, or?
Yes, Alderwoman from the 8th will yield for questioning to the Alderman from the 26th.
Of course.
Alderman from the 26th, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President, and Alderwoman from the 8th. You know, I'm new. I'm only about a little over 2.5 years in this. So the same thing, I bet you we are having some of the same questions that I had at first, which is why I definitely took the initiative to sit on the, I didn't want it to sound wrong when he said that the meetings weren't public, because actually we are advocates for the public. So us being at the meeting essentially makes that part public. And then the Public Safety Committee meetings, we know, thank you to STLTV, are absolutely public. And I want you also to know that this was not one meeting, it was several meetings. And it's a commitment that, like Alderman Boyd said, that they make every year. When I tipped off into it, I'm telling you, I had no idea. And knowing that you tried to keep it in the vision that it was created in under Alderman Terry Kennedy when he was Alderman, and making sure that these organizations and associations that we know and can advocate are on the ground doing the work, can prove it, then go behind that and have the paperwork, the documents that we can provide, that Alderman Boyd said he can provide to show you the work, the receipts, like we call them, of the work. It's really something to see, and it really feels good to be able to empower these organizations, these associations. So with that being said, I know you say you might have Googled something that didn't come up with something. Please feel free. I myself offer, and I'm sure anybody else that was in that process will offer. If you maybe are missing them on the search, call one of us, because we had several conversations, several meetings. This was definitely not a one-off, and I'm really proud of the work that this committee did with this. So again, I hear it in your voice because I had it at first. So I didn't want to not step up and just back it up and tell you, let's move forward with how we can do this and make it even greater.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderwoman from 26 for that great clarification. Alderman from the 25th.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I may, may I inquire of my colleague from the 22nd?
Alderman from the 22nd will yield to the Alderman from the 25th.
Yes.
Thank you, Alderman. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. President. I'm curious. I've sat on this subcommittee for probably most of my time down here at the Board of Aldermen. I didn't get an invite this particular session, which I'm totally okay with. But I am kind of familiar with the applicants that are more regularly submitting applications that generally rank very high in the application process. So I don't know if they necessarily need education around how to complete a grant proposal, but some organizations that come to mind, for me are like STL Youth Jobs, which has been doing a really good job of getting at-risk youth in North City and Southeast City into kind of productive employment arrangements, and paying them a decent wage over the summer, while exposing them to opportunities that they otherwise wouldn't have. They generally always score in the top 5 when ranked. So I'm kind of curious, like, why they're not recommended. And likewise, just from my ward's perspective, I know generally speaking, we've got Jean Slade Boys and Girls Club, Thomas Dunn Learning Center, Roosevelt High Schools, community group, LDG, Lutheran Development Group, I know, submitted an application this year. I'm just generally curious. I mean, those organizations also usually score pretty high. They're not on the list, for recommendations. So I'm just kind of wondering what the rationale and logic was behind the group and the decisions that were made.
Sure, good question. Well, number one, we went into it with the mindset that if organizations have been funded since the inception, then they would probably be at the bottom of recommendations, because most of those have development specialists. They have people that actually know how to write a grant. And you're right, they almost always bubble up to the top 10. And so it doesn't give an opportunity for those smaller grassroots organizations to get a chance, because they don't have that capacity. And that's why we recommended that some of the remaining funds be used for educational purposes. Also, when it came to youth jobs, there's an opportunity with ARPA funds. The other thing we looked at is there another source of funding for some of these organizations that do good work, that have been getting funding in the past? And I think we have a very rich opportunity with a lot of the funding that's coming to the city of St. Louis to continue to fund those organizations. We also looked at, other places where they may have been getting funding. We took that into consideration. Maybe somebody else on the committee may want to make a comment, but we looked at a lot of matrices as far as how we're going to allocate these funds, and we took it very seriously. And yes, there are some that, like Big Brothers Big Sister comes to mind, like they always scored in the top 3. But they are a multi-million-dollar organization, and an organization like Throwing and Growing, for example, the Story Stitchers, they couldn't possibly compete on the same level when it came to grant writing for some of these fundings.
Yeah, and I certainly understand that. I mean, you and I have had that conversation around Big Brothers Big Sisters before in the past, which is why I didn't include them in that list of organizations that I mentioned earlier. But I am, and I can certainly understand and respect the conversation around STL Youth Jobs and ARPA funding. But like the Roosevelt high school group, I mean, they don't have a grant writer. They're a community-based group of parents and community members that are very passionate about supporting the youth at Roosevelt High School, and being there for our public school students. And then I know like Pianos for People is another organization that regularly applies. They don't have a grant writer, but they do amazing work in our community. And I'm just I know the difficult conversations that take place in this committee. I've been on it before. I know those are very heavy conversations and heavy decisions that need to be made. But I'm really kind of struggling, because these are organizations that provide a lot of services to my ward, which has a high density of at-risk youth that are in poverty. And most of the organizations that you listed, to my knowledge, are not doing work down here. So I'm really struggling with that. And at this point I would have to vote no, because I literally 30% of my ward is underneath the age of 18, and this is really kind of a challenge, to be honest.
Sure.
Alderman, from the 25th, just as a point of clarification, this is a report, so we will not be voting on this today.
Okay.
All right.
And not to belabor the issue, but Alderman Cone, we did discuss Roosevelt, for example, and St. Louis Public Schools has money, and Roosevelt wasn't asking for a whole lot. I believe it was 25,000, and St. Louis Public Schools can step up to the plate and fund their own after-school programs. So again, that was something that we looked at, because it's like, what other source of funding? If we don't fund them, what other source of funding is out there to support them? And I think it's a challenge for us as colleagues overall when it comes to services to our community, because there are some neighborhoods who have benefited from social justice grants from the Justice Department, where other neighborhoods have not. So we can't always participate in every opportunity. And I think since I've been here in 19 years, different funding have spread out across the city in a fairly equitable way, in my mind. And I know it's easy to get in our feelings when agencies in our ward did not get funding, but for an example, I represent probably one of the top 3 toughest, challenging, socially, economically depressed neighborhoods in the city. And I would have liked to get some of the grants that Dutchtown have received over the years, especially the justice grants. I remember plenty of times where there were grants directly targeted to the young people in that neighborhood. So we certainly didn't want to slight anybody, and I'm glad you recognize that you have been on that committee in the past, so you do know the difficult tasks that we take on. And it's hard, you know, to fund everybody, and it's painful when you have to say no to some organizations. But trust me, we were trying to be equitable, we were trying to be fair across the whole board. And what's really interesting is you'll be surprised when you look at the scoring from Incarnate Word. Some of the agencies that used to score way high, for some reason, didn't score well at all. And then we took, I think, a median score of like 70 out of, I don't know, it was 90 or 100 or something like that. But we took a median score as a cutoff as well, based on Incarnate Word's recommendations.
Yeah, so Alderman, just a point of clarification, the Justice Assistance Grant that went to Dutchtown and Mount Pleasant, that was a grant that I helped write in conjunction with the police department, the city councilor's office, and the Department of Public Safety when I was first elected 13 years ago. So that was a grant that was awarded 13 years ago to my ward, and we have not been the direct beneficiary of any grant from the Justice Assistance Grant since my first term, and I'm now in my 4th term. So and that was initiated by me. It wasn't just dropped in my lap by city government. That was something that I had to work on, and it was an idea that I kind of co-created with a couple stakeholders in my ward. So, you know, just a point of clarification there, that was also, you know, 3 terms ago. So there's certainly been other things I can go on in your ward that, you know, I've been jealous of, you know, the various projects around, you know, Friendly Temple and, you know, Arlington Grove and things like that, that I haven't had the beneficiary of those types of, you know, mass scale projects in my ward either. I'm not going to get into a tit for tat over you know, the different things that are going on in our neighborhoods. What I'm just speaking to is that I do have a ward that has a tremendous amount of young people. This, you know, Prop S money is supposed to go towards at-risk youth. That's, you know, we have probably a handful of wards in the city that have, you know, the density of, you know, at-risk youth that my ward has. And, you know, I just don't see any organizations that provide, you know, direct support, you know, to those young people in my ward on this list. And so I'm voicing my concern and my frustration about that.
Alderman, I think we have a phenomenal opportunity. We have Board Bill 86, which is to allocate some more millions of dollars, you know, of ARPA funds. And we should be looking at those strategies. I think when we came out with Board Bill 2, we didn't really work well together with the administration on how to really roll that out. But I think we've learned from that process, and moving forward, let's seize on this opportunity with Board Bill, I'm not sure, maybe it's 82, Mr. President, you can correct me if I'm wrong, so that we can accomplish some of the goals that all of us would like to see in our neighborhoods. So I'd like to offer that.
I appreciate it. I've kind of shared my mind at this point. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing.
All right, thank you. Alderwoman from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I enjoyed listening to the dialogue between the alderpersons of the 22nd and 25th Ward, because as we all know, we do have some great opportunities before us. Aside from the exceptional amount of money that has come from several different places, we also have a new planning process in place for our wards. And in that planning will come and should come some directives and positions for residents to speak about those type of things that they'd like to see in their wards. And also the assistance should come with it to get the job done. So to help them write grants and all of that. And the mayor has two different persons that deal specifically with youth development and one that deals with neighborhoods. So hopefully we will see all of us collectively working together to get the work done in neighborhoods, because there's a ton of money out here that nobody ever applies for from the various foundations that we have in place in this region. And so hopefully we can tune in on some of that as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderwoman. Alderwoman from the 14th.
I just would like to encourage the board members to review the scoring information that was done by Incarnate Word. And maybe that would answer some of the questions of the why and wherefore. I think they did a phenomenal job in assessing the availability, assessing the applications. And I think that, you know, they don't have really an axe to grind in this thing. So I think that those things were done objectively, and it guided a lot of our decision making. So I would appreciate if everybody would take a look at that, and then they would know exactly how we arrived at these decisions. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Alderwoman from the 14th. Any further items on second reading of resolutions? Madam Clerk.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you guys were finished. That's the extent of second reading of resolutions.
Miscellaneous unfinished business.
We have none.
Announcement.
Tuesday, February the 1st, HUD will have a meet at 1 p.m. via webinar. Wednesday, February the 2nd, Streets will have a meet at 10 a.m. via webinar. Friday, February the 4th, full board meeting, 10 a.m. via webinar. That's the extent of the announcements.
Any further announcements? Any further announcements?
Mr. President, I have an announcement.
Alderman from the 27th.
It's not an announcement. I just wanted to make a statement. Our community has been hit very hard in the last couple of months with the new variants and the violence that's within our communities. And we had a young lady that was brutally murdered yesterday. And I think that we need to take a moment to step back and look at what's going on in the communities that we are serving. People are depressed and stressed out, and they're confined, and the ones that are coming out or just disregard for the law and the law officers that are serving our communities. And so I ask that everyone please take a moment to think back on what's going on in our communities and how it's impacting us. I can speak as a elected official. I don't condone these behaviors. I don't think it's okay for people to take it so lightly to take someone's life. And so I hope that the people that's out here that's doing this and the families that they're dealing with look at how it's impacted us as communities. It doesn't just impact the victim, but it impacts the victim's families and the families that's impacted from other ends. So please make it clear to everybody that we're not supporting these behaviors and we don't think it's okay for us to lose lives at the numbers that we are. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman from the 23rd.
Yes, you know, but I guess I would like to make a statement. I don't know how many people realize that we actually had at least one person, a young lady that froze to death this past week out there that was homeless. And I'm sure there were other people that have died. One that I'm aware of, 26-year-old young lady froze to death. We need to quit talking about what we're going to do. I know the downtown people do not want to see Larry Rice open. That's fine. Then we're gonna all have to step up to the plate. And I know, gee, if you can find your way to a warming bus, you know, most homeless people don't have televisions. Most homeless people don't get the public service announcements that you might want to end up in a certain spot. But as a group, we need to start really looking hard at this, because again, freezing to death, that's horrible. That is horrible. If we let our dog freeze to death, we would be in jail. And there's homeless people that have died, not only just this one, but this one comes to mind this past week. I believe she's 26 years old. And I don't think she deserved to have to freeze to death, because we're concerned about not having any homeless people in our neighborhoods, you know, downtown, not wanting to, you know, they say, well, the services are all down here. We, you know, what about the county? But we can push this around. We can keep doing what we're doing, but it's on us when people are dying, not just sort of dying, literally dying, freezing to death. You know, and that's just a sad thing. And I just want to make sure, I don't know if anybody was aware of this or not, but you know, it's just a terrible thing. Anyway, I just wanted, since we're talking about this stuff, I wanted to mention that in case everyone didn't realize that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderman. Alderman from the 22nd.
Board, I would like to remind my colleagues and announce to the world that next Tuesday, February the 1st, is Black History Month, and the African American Caucus at the Board of Aldermen will be raising a Pan-African flag, and we invite everybody to come out at 10 o'clock on Market Street in front of City Hall to raise the flag in honor of Black History Month. Number one. Number two, last week I mentioned that one of our celebrity birthdays was Dan Gunther, who celebrated, I think, yesterday, his birthday. But I missed Carol Howard. She celebrated a birthday this week. And then next week, the infamous Thomas Oldenburg is celebrating a birthday. So I want to make that announcement.
All right. Oh, wow. Right. Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Alderman from the 10th, you recognize on the motion to excuse.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I move that we excuse the alderpersons from the 1st, 3rd, and the 11th ward for necessary absence.
Second.
Moved by Alderman from the 10th.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, point of order. Can we separate those excused?
No,
I'm not sure if the Alderman from the 1st would appreciate us excusing her.
Oh, no, I think she'll be okay with it.
Okay.
she, you know, through mental telepathy, she told me to make sure that Dan Gunther, let me see, I'm picking it up. Make sure Dan Gunther votes in favor of this motion to excuse.
All right.
All right, it's been moved by the Alderman from 10th. Entertain a second on that motion.
Second.
Second by the Alderman from 22nd and someone else. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
No,
Aye.
no. Brandon Bosley is here. I've been here. I just ain't
Oh,
voted
Brandon
yet.
Bowser's here.
I'm sorry, I still didn't hear any no's, but you know.
Brandon Bosley's here.
No.
Brandon Bosley's here. Shouldn't we be voting no?
Oh,
on that
Brandon
motion?
Bosley's here.
Yeah, I'm like here for real. I like being here.
Oh,
So no, not voting
So,
on the motion.
They like to mend the most. Oh, what do we do now?
all right.
Mr. President, have been voted on the prevailing side.
side.
I would like to reconsider the excuse motion.
Been
Second.
moved by the Alderman from the 22nd. Entertain the second. on the motion.
Second, Alderman Cone.
Seconded by the Alderman from the 25th. Alderman from the 25th, you didn't vote on the prevailing side. Entertain the
You can
second.
still second the motion.
Yeah.
though.
Second.
We're not allowing that. Seconded by the Alderman from the. All right, we moved and seconded. That we move to reconsider the previous vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Previous row.
Previous roll.
Well, you can't really move
No.
that. Clerk, please call the roll.
Objection.
Alderwoman Tyus. Middlebrook.
Aye.
Alderman Bosley.
Aye. Here.
Alderman Evans.
Aye.
Alderman Page.
Aye.
Alderwoman Gracia.
Aye.
Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Wright.
Aye.
Alderman Gunther. Alderman Balmer.
Aye.
Aye.
Alderwoman Martin. Alderman Stevens.
Aye.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard.
Present.
Alderwoman Green.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderwoman Peel.
Aye.
Alderman Todd.
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad. Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
President Reed.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderman Coder. Alderman Gunther.
Aye.
Alderwoman Martin. Alderman Muhammad. 23 aye votes and 1 voted present.
By your vote, staying the motion, Alderman from the 22nd. Now, what's before us is the motion to excuse Alderman from the 10th. Recognized on the motion to excuse.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I move that we excuse the Alderman from the 1st and the 11th for necessary absence.
Moved by
Second.
Alderman from 10th, second by Alderman from 22nd. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. But you know what? The Alderwoman from the first is gonna love the fact that we did that vote twice. So she still won, even though she wasn't here. And Dan and who was it?
Alderman Cone.
Yeah, Dan and Tom held the line. Alderman from 10th, you recognize on the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I move that we adjourn to February 4th, 2022 at 10:01 a.m.
Second.
At 10 a.m. Alderman from the 10th
Yes, sir.
at 10 a.m.
Okay. 10 a.m. plus about a few seconds.
All right. Been moved by the Alderman from 10th. Entertain the second on that motion.
Second.
Second.
Seconded by the Alderman from the 12th, and a few others. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you all. Have a great weekend.
Have a good weekend.